Abbott and Costello, Woody and Buzz Lightyear, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Batman and Robin. So many iconic teams. And to add to that list, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Welcome to Squared Circle Radio, everyone. That is the young buck, Mr. Andy York. My name is Chris Belcher. Thank you for being with us. Whether this is your first time or you've been with us for a hot minute, we appreciate you checking out our show. If you're on the YouTube channel, hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you're listening on podcast, just follow on whatever platform you're on. We would appreciate it. Andy, it's like a super team, man. We're going to talk about these guys, but what a week in wrestling it's been. 2 season premieres were on USA across the board for WWE. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, it's a great time to be alive, too. Like you said, 2 premieres. First Dynamite after All Out, which was this past weekend as well. So just a lot of crazy things. The PWI broke the internet as well. So it's a wild week in wrestling this week.
Listen, I intentionally did not include that in our show because I'm not going to talk about it. We're not even going to go there. It's
You thought last week was a showdown, buddy. That would be a fun showdown.
Whoa, I'm not even getting there. Nope, not doing it. Not talking about it. If you missed last week, by the way, Andy and I pulled a little showdown going back and forth on AEW. I thought it was more civil than what it could have been, right? Like I feel like we're both in agreement that there's problems in AEW that need to be resolved, no matter if you are a fan of the product or not. I think everybody recognizes that things need to be things need to be fixed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the good is really good. Just this other stuff needs to be taken care of.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and like we talked about attendance last week. I saw a picture from Collision this week. Did you see that picture that was floating around online from Collision?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah.
Like 90% of the building was empty and it didn't even have an upper deck. And it's, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you see pictures of TNA. What was their pay-per-view that they ran last week? I don't remember what it was called, but it was
it was like TNA something.
It was something. Regardless, doesn't matter. It was in Texas, and that place was packed. So AEW needs to take note. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's get to it, man. This week in wrestling history, before we break down the super team that is Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, this week in wrestling history, it was September the 15th and 16th of 1996. Man, that is 28 years ago.
I wasn't even born yet.
Oh my goodness. I was watching this live. Fall Brawl War Games on the 15th. The NWO does the unthinkable, Andy. They got Sting to turn his back on WCW, but Sting tells WCW that was an imposter. It wasn't him. He was in Japan. WCW doesn't believe him. Sting shows up, cleans house, walks out on his friends, and walks out on WCW. And Andy, the Crow is born after this incident. What do you remember? You said you weren't born. Obviously, you've gone back and watched it. The Sting evolution into the Crow and feuding with the NWO is easily the best story that WCW ever told. But just going back and watching it as an older age, as I mentioned, I watched it live and I was 8 years old. So going back and watching it as an older adult, what are your thoughts as you look back through what was Fall Brawl and then the subsequent Monday Nitro after that when Sting cut his promo?
Yeah, it's it's one of those moments where we kind of see this in wrestling a lot, where you have one specific character who you think is going to stay that way forever and kind of be that like perfect babyface, character that we love to see.
Yeah.
And then something switches, and there's always that fear when it switches of, oh no, this is going to ruin their career. They're not going to recover. And then you see the aftermath of it, and you're like, oh no, that was absolutely the right decision to go with that. I think a modern day example of that is the first time Sami Zayn turned heel. Like, Sami Zayn seemed like the babyface that was never going to turn heel. You'd never be able to do anything like that. And then he turned heel, and it was like, oh, well, that led to him being the Intercontinental Champion, him going into the Bloodline, things like that. It was a lot of interesting things. So, you never really know what you're going to get, but I imagine this shocked the wrestling world to no end, to see this version of Sting that, nobody really thought they would ever see.
What's so funny is I remember specifically watching this, like I said, and watching this, it was like you didn't know what to think with, was it Sting? Because let me flash this picture back up on you if you're watching on a YouTube channel. You see the guy on the left of the big picture, that's the fake Sting. That's Jeff Farmer. And the guy on the right is Sting. Well, if you look in the top right-hand corner, that is Lex Luger in the parking lot when he comes face-to-face with the fake Sting. And WCW shot this so well that you can't tell if that's the real Sting or not. If they would have gotten any closer, you would know that that was not actually Sting. But the NWO, again, recruited this fake Sting and to turn his back on WCW and set up the whole War Games thing. So watching this in real time, I don't want to say I was a super smart 8-year-old, but I believed Sting the whole time. Like when he came back, I was like, Sting's right. Like he's telling the truth. And even when the fake Sting showed up, I was like, no, that's not Sting. Like it's not. And if you're a weirdo like me and you watch how the fake Sting wrestled, he didn't do the Stinger Splash exactly the same. He didn't do the beating your chest and yelling exactly like Sting did. So you go back and look at 1994, the fake Undertaker when he did his thing. If you're a smart fan, you could tell. So yeah. I was that way with Sting. I always believed Sting, but I want to point this out. I'll show this picture on our YouTube channel. This is a screenshot of Sting's promo the night after Fall Brawl when he comes out and he tells WCW to stick it, and that the announcers and the wrestlers and nobody believed him, but he appreciated the fans that stuck by him and that he would still be here for them, but the Stinger was going to have to go away, and he considered himself a free agent. And this is the first night that we hear the line, the only thing that's for sure about Sting is nothing's for sure. And the whole promo, Andy, his back is to the hard cam. He never looks at the camera the whole promo. I don't want to give Eric Bischoff all the credit in the world for this storyline because I'm sure a lot of people had a hand in it. But, dude, if they had the beats of that storyline all the way written out the way that they did, and for it to be executed the way it was, oh my goodness. Like, kudos to them.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's probably one of, if not the best stories that WCW ever told was this story with Sting. And so, kudos to them, like you said, if that followed through, just seeing the picture that you just threw up there now of the first iteration of Crow's Sting is just wild to see him like that. Cause as I've said before, my wife is not a wrestling fan. She did not become a wrestling fan until we got married. And the only Sting she knew was Crow Sting. And so when I went back and showed her Surfer Sting, she said, "Who is this loser?" I was like, that's who Sting is. Like that, if that Sting didn't exist, you wouldn't have, like, the Crow Sting would have never worked at either. So they all play hand in hand. It's kind of like a reverse Undertaker of going from the dead man to the American BA to going back to the dead. Like, it's kind of the reverse of that, but it's the same thing of, just taking the character in a completely different direction. So credit to them. It's a captivating story that people have tried to mimic and to redo, and it just has not worked to the same extent that this did.
We talk all the time about how Hulk Hogan essentially had 2 Hall of Fame careers with the red and yellow and then with the NWO. And we talk about how Shawn Michaels had his first run before he broke his back, and that's a Hall of Fame career. And then his comeback was yet another one. Well, listen, you could make the same argument for Sting. That as Surfer Sting, he was a Hall of Famer. And then as Crow Sting, he literally, just like Hogan, added so many years to his career because you talked about changing characters. Who knows if this new iteration, the way wrestling was going, if Surfer Sting would have actually worked. The red and yellow Hogan didn't work. Would Surfer Sting have worked? Who knows,
Yeah. 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 And, I think it's a testament to him as well of
Yes.
seeing the business, kind of reading the business before it even happened, of seeing the business change to a, I don't want to say a darker, grittier version, but to where the Crow Sting fit into that era of wrestling more than Surfer Sting would have. Same way with, like we just talked about with Hogan, the trading in the red and yellow for the black and white. Like it fit that era of WCW and wrestling, and so he kind of saw the writing on the wall, and instead of being stubborn about it, went along with it and got the version that we get now.
Yeah, for sure. It was a wild time to be alive, and you weren't alive yet, but you were getting.
I wasn't. A couple months later, I would be, but
you were getting there. It was a wild time, man. It's some of my most fond memories of watching wrestling is growing up in this era and wondering if I was going to see Sting that week, and it made it all the more special. All right, we appreciate you guys being tuned in. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Again, if you're on our YouTube channel, make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Andy, 80+% of our viewers are not subscribed. Now, I say that not as a shot to the people who are watching that aren't subscribed, because it could be that you don't realize you're not subscribed. All you got to do, that subscribe button is right below the video. Just hit the button, hit the notifications bell. It helps us out a ton. You know who else it helps? You know who else? I'll get it out in a minute. Who else that it helps out? Our friends over at Sports Wire Radio. Tom and the crew over there have you covered all season long, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's wrestling. They've got you covered. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you about it. I'm going to leave somebody else. I'm going to let the Reverend Tom Bryce tell you what you can find on Sports Wire Radio.
Sports Wire Radio has you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. With great shows in the world of sports, such as the Pinstripe Chronicles, hosted by Uncle Tats, Donald Stewart, and Rob Barrows. New York Baseball Talk with Chris Bazaya and Rob Maraska. The Liftoff Jets, also hosted by Chris Bazaya and Sharman Phillip. Neil Villapiano and the Devil's State of Mind. Randy Dillon's Hockey Fan Chat. In the world of wrestling, Sports Wire Radio has you covered with Squared Circle Radio, featuring Chris Belcher, Andy York, and Jared Justice. Those sit-down marks with DB, Primo, AJ, and Michael. A work in progress, featuring the Mayor of Canton, Piles, and Glenn Abbott. You can catch all of these great shows and more anytime, anywhere, and any place via the Listen Live button on sportswireradio.org, and you can also catch Sports Wire Radio anytime on YouTube at Sports Wire Radio 6579 to catch all the latest happenings in the world of wrestling. Sports Wire Radio has you covered. It's all sports matters and all wrestling matters here on Sports Wire Radio. I am your host, the owner of Sports Wire Radio, the #1 global radio station, the owner of the Promo Wrestling Federation, and one of the owners of the Pride Wrestling Federation. Your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters, the Reverend Tom Bryce.
And we appreciate the Reverend Tom Bryce for everything that he does for Squared Circle Radio. Again, Sports Wire Radio, go check them out. All right, Andy, I mentioned at the top of the show, 3 season premieres last week. All 3 WWE shows are on the USA Network. Let's talk about SmackDown. Back on the USA Network for the first time in a long time. New logo, new theme song, same set. That's okay. But I really like the look, man. We were texting about the look of the logo, how it sort of seemed out of place, but then once we see it in context, it looks really cool. The new match graphics, the new lower thirds and namers, credits. Man, just a really cool revamp presentation for the season premiere, I thought. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it felt very different than SmackDown on Fox, which I think was very important. Yep. Like, just let's start afresh, let's start new. I really like the new logo. Kind of like you, when I first saw it, I was like, that looks a little old school. Like, it's cool, but like it doesn't really look. I don't know how I don't know how to feel about it. And then you show the logo and everything else and on TV, and it looked really, really great. So I really enjoyed it. The aesthetic of the building looked really cool. 4K camera was back, which made me very happy because, dude, Roman's entrance in the 4K is beautiful.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, and that was the first thing I thought of when it popped up. I was like, oh, we just talked about this. It's great.
Yeah, so it looked awesome. I thought presentation wise, they knocked it out of the park Friday. It was great.
Yep, I did too. You know what else they knocked out of the park on Friday? The opening match, the steel cage match for the undisputed WWE Championship. Cody Rhodes defeating Solo Sikoa. Man, you called the Cody Cutter as you see it there on your screen. Right there it is, man. He wasn't quite at the top, but daggum, he got pretty close. He didn't do the moonsault. He teased it, though, man. It was so funny to see him climb up there and be turned around backwards, and you saw the people go crazy because I think they thought moonsault too. But what a way to kick off the show.
Yeah, this was a fantastic match. I think this was a lot better than their SummerSlam match. And
I agree.
So I really enjoyed it. It was great. It's probably the best Solo has looked by himself. And so I really enjoyed it. And, you know, it's a great way to kick off the night with putting this title on the line. It kind of shocked. When we saw that it was going to kick off the show, me and you started texting immediately of like, if this is kicking off the show, something big is happening at the end.
Yep.
And they delivered on all fronts. So credit to them. It was a lot of fun. You never really know what you're going to get with the Bloodline. You never know what you're going to get with a steel cage match too. Yep. And we kind of got everything wrapped up into it. I popped when he hit the Cody Cutter. It was beautiful from the basically from the top. He was almost at the top.
It was very close.
But it was a great way to kick off the show.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the ending of the show. Don't worry, we're not skipping over it. I'm just trying to piece these things together so that we can, because Andy, it's kind of funny that we're trying to avoid it, but what we have to realize is all of these things mean something in their own way. You know, yes, They are connected, but you got to give Triple H and the creative team their kudos because of how well they're setting these things up. As Sam Roberts likes to say, everything counts. So this Cody Solo match, yes, while we got some shenanigans at the end and we got a big return and it's leading to something else, the match in itself still counts. Because at the end of the match, Cody Rhodes pins Solo and he says, "That's it. I'm done." Yeah. And then he references that later, telling Nick Aldis, "I'm done with the Bloodline." So all of these things together mean something as a whole and as the parts. So like you said, man, I thought first match of the night, kicking off the USA era, what a way to do it. Steel cage match, your world heavyweight or your WWE champion, commercial free. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't. I think it did a lot for Solo, too, of making him feel bigger and, like, feel more important, especially for what happens at the end with Roman coming back.
Yep.
I think it plays into that really well, of something that finally Solo gets the big moment. He almost gets the pin. He almost gets the win. And then Cody fighting back to get it. So it was a fantastic way, probably the perfect way they could have kicked off the night.
Yep. I completely agree. And then, of course, it wouldn't be the Bloodline if we didn't get Bloodline shenanigans. Even though Cody wins the match, the rest of the Bloodline surround the cage. They all climb in. They beat up Cody Rhodes. And who comes to Cody's aid once again? He's back. Roman Reigns coming to Cody's aid. Not before we didn't see a beautiful moonsault, though, from Jacob Fatu on Cody. Roman comes back and cleans house, takes out the Bloodline, and then Andy, I think we all expected Roman to come back on the season premiere of SmackDown, but I think what everybody was excited for is what you see on your YouTube screen right now. It's the face-off between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. How awesome was that?
Oh, listen, the crowd was hyped for it. They were dying to see those two guys go at it, especially when Roman did the motions for him to enter the ring and Jacob slowly got in. The place just came unglued for it. So I'm very excited for that whenever that finally happens. I feel like this was the first time that they went face to face in the middle of the ring with nobody else around. Yep. And it got it feels like it got a bigger reaction than if Solo was there.
Sure.
Like they're teasing this perfectly. I love the fact that even Jacob was on the top of the cage. He was getting ready to go for the moonsault off the top of the cage onto Cody. Roman's music hit, and then he exited out of the cage. He didn't go into the cage to be locked in there with them. So I thought that was done really, really well. I don't know about you. I was very happy to see Tongaloa get in without messing it up. So that's like a check mark for him. That's a win for him.
You know, I wondered about that. I was watching him to see what happened. It's really interesting, man, because I feel like we talked about Tongaloa last week, and I'm still trying to figure out why he's so bad. I don't get it. I know there's a Marty Jannetty for every tag team, but Marty Jannetty was still a really good worker. But
That's true.
The point I'm trying to make is that Tongaloa gets in these situations. I feel like his only move that he has when they get in these beatdown situations is a scoop slam. And to me, that does no good in a beatdown situation. Like, that's a wrestling move. Like that. If you go back and watch, every time that he physically gets involved in a beatdown, he picks a guy up and scoop slams him. Like, why?
Probably the safest thing for him to do. Like, it's probably the easiest and the safest way for him to handle somebody. And I'll say in this context, it made sense because it set up the Jacob Fatu moonsault. So that it made sense for that. But yeah, it's bad. it's really bad when he gets into the ring and gets involved. But yeah, I this whole segment was great. I thought, the bloodline felt really cool. One of the things I noticed was, and it kind of ties a lot of things together, is when Roman got into the ring and slammed the door shut.
Yep.
It was very Undertaker-like, man.
Yes.
I was just slamming the door shut and the place going crazy.
Yep.
It was just a really, really cool moment to see that.
Yeah, it was very cool. So after he enters the cage and we see the stare off between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns, and then Roman gets blindsided from behind. And then, of course, it's after Solo drags Jacob out, so we don't ever get that. And then Roman gets blindsided, and then who comes to his aid but Cody Rhodes? So Tongaloa gets a spear for his troubles. Tama Tonga gets a crossroads, and then this stare-off happens between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, and what you don't see here on your screen is right after this, Cody picks up the championship. Roman looks at the championship, and they stare off, and then we find out later that there's a little match that is challenged and all that. But before we get to the match, Andy, we finally get Roman and Cody on an even playing ground. We saw them stare at each other at SummerSlam. Well, now they're both standing up. And the place is shaking, man, because this has been the main event of the last two WrestleManias. And
right.
Here we are in September, and they're face-to-face. In this moment, what did you think was going to happen? As you're watching this in real time, it's like, do you want them to fight? Like, what do you want to see happen here?
I don't know what I wanted to see. All I know is it was cool to see them together, but I don't know if I want them to be together, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so, it's kind of the story that they're going to tell. I do, though. I mean, not to pat myself on the back too much, but me and Katie were sitting there watching it. And when they made the save, I was like, watch this. They're going to announce a match for Bad Blood. And it's going to be the tag match. And she was like, no, they're not going to put Roman and Cody together. So, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to feel about the possibility of them even teaming up. All I know is the moment those two guys are in the ring together, and we'll talk about the last segment later on. Yeah. But the moment those two guys are in the ring together, it just feels different. And it feels like in a good way. It feels like, Austin Rock kind of standing in a ring together. It feels like Cena Randy standing in a ring together. It's just these two guys are destined to do this forever. But in what ways are they going to do it? So it's fascinating that they're telling this story this way.
Yeah, it really is. So yeah, like Andy said, we're going to get to that in just a second. Before we get there, though, want to remind you, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. We are so close to 200 subscribers. We hope that you will help us get there. Again, 80% of you that are watching are not subscribed. Maybe you don't think you're subscribed, or maybe you don't realize you're not subscribed. Button's right down below the video. Just hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That way you get a notification. We would appreciate that very, very much. We're trying to grow this channel. We get lots of good comments from you guys. We appreciate that feedback as well. That helps the algorithm. Liking the video helps the algorithm. So we can't thank you guys enough for your support. The best way that you can do that is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, Andy, we said it. Everything happened in the first segment. You get the return of Roman Reigns. You get the stare-off between Roman and Cody. And then we find out that there's a match that's been challenged by Solo Sikoa. It'll be Solo and Jacob against Roman and Cody in a massive tag team match at Bad Blood. Cody says, I'm not doing it. And then Roman and Nick Aldis says, I'm going to go talk to Roman Reigns. And then he says Roman's going to address the crowd. Well, Roman comes out. He addresses the crowd. He says this is still his WWE. And then the champion makes his entrance. And he says, not since WrestleMania, pal. And here we go. We get this stare off. Solo and Jacob come down. The contract is there. And then after some back and forth, Roman and Cody both sign it. The match is official. The place goes wild. It will be Roman and Cody in a tag team match at Bad Blood against Solo and Jacob. First of all, man, I flashed the graphic up at the beginning. You all see it's the thumbnail for the show. I'm going to flash it back up one more time. This team right here, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, is this bigger than the Mega Powers? Is this bigger than Hogan and Savage teaming up? You know, we see the handshake. You know, that's the famous video between them. But now, Cody and Roman, this generation's Rock and Austin, you already mentioned it. Is this team bigger than the Mega Powers?
I don't know about that. That's a bold claim. I mean, I get there's an argument for it. I don't know. And I don't know because we haven't seen. I think we have to wait till we see them in the ring together.
Okay, let me ask it this way.
Okay.
Is it more, when you look at this team, maybe it's not fair for me just to pigeonhole the Mega Powers. When you look at this team, do you see the Mega Powers, or does it look more like Hogan Warrior when they teamed up?
I don't know. That's a good comparison, because I was also thinking like this kind of gives like a baby-faced version of the two-man power trip.
Yeah. Austin and Triple H.
So yeah, so kind of that of, you know, bitter rivals coming together for a reason, for something. I mean, if we're talking popularity-wise, there's not many other teams out there that are as popular as like with popular members as Roman and Cody.
Sure. Yep.
Because I know there were some people online trying to say that Cody was getting booed when he came out. There was some massive Cody chants when he was in the ring, and then there's a lot of OTC chants at the same time. Which USA needs to learn the difference between when they're chanting a cuss word and when they're chanting OTC, please. Like, there's a big difference between the two, and stop muting them because it's annoying because you can't hear anything when they do it. That drove me crazy on Friday.
People just can't blame Fox now because that was the scapegoat for so long.
Yeah. I'm so ready for them to move to Netflix for that reason alone, of just not muting the crowd. Like, let's just let the crowd be the crowd, please. And let's just keep going. Anyways, I don't think, I mean, you have to put him up there with the Mega Powers. You have to put him up there with Hogan Warrior. You have to put him up there with Austin and Triple H. You have to put him up there kind of in a way with Rock and Mankind, like two baby faces coming together and just seeing what they do. I don't think it's going to be a long run. It's probably just a one-off. Maybe somewhere down the line we do Cody Roman versus Rock and Solo. Like, that could be something that we build to at some point as well. But I don't know. That's the thing, is I don't know the outcome of this, which is exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking at the same time.
Well, you're steering this ship in the right direction, because we're about to address what we think might happen in this match. You brought up that it's a one-off. Let's look down the road for just a minute before we look at the match. Let's get past the match for a second. Sam Roberts brought it up on his podcast today. He said that we may not be headed towards a Bloodline versus Bloodline War Games. We may be getting the Bloodline 2.0 versus Roman, Cody, KO, and Randy. A completely Avengers babyface team to take out the Bloodline in War Games.
Yeah, I could see that. That's a big possibility.
And the only reason that I would lean towards that, because we've said for a long time that I think, or at least I think Cody is the fifth member of the original Bloodline team. It doesn't make any sense, but it's going to be their way to force Cody into the War Games match. And this is sort of the start of that. So the reason I kind of lean towards Sam is maybe they're not ready to put Jay with the Bloodline, or they don't want to cross brands, or
Jimmy's not ready yet.
Or Jimmy's not ready
something
yet.
Like that, yeah.
So maybe.
Yeah, I mean I personally would rather see Bloodline versus Bloodline in War Games. But I mean it's not a bad alternative of doing 4 versus 4 that way. And it makes sense storyline wise. It also makes sense if Randy turns at the end on everybody because he's upset or something. I don't know. But yeah, that would be a crazy way. I mean, plus at full circle of when he returned versus now, it would all make sense at that point.
Yeah, imagine if you have a match with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns on the same team, and it's this huge War Games match, and Randy Orton is the dude standing tall. That would be so funny. It wouldn't surprise.
It would be the most Randy Orton thing in the world.
I know. It really would. All right, let's talk about the Bad Blood match. Again, it's Roman and Cody against Solo and Jacob Fatu. So many ways you can go with it. I've got 3 scenarios here, and I'm going to have to read this so I don't forget. 3 scenarios in which I think this match could play out. Number 1, Cody Rhodes. I think it's a given that Cody Rhodes is getting pinned in this match. It's what always happens in a tag match. Cody Rhodes gets pinned. I think Cody gets pinned, and he blames Roman for not helping him. Okay. I think Cody gets pinned. Roman blames Cody for losing the match. Okay. Fair option, right? Because Roman wants back at his bloodline, and Cody costed him that opportunity. Okay, fair. Option number 3. Cody gets beat because Roman joins this version of the bloodline and turns heel. There are 3 very plausible scenarios, all 3 leading to Cody Rhodes getting pinned.
Yeah, I think it's the safe bet that Cody's getting pinned. It would make no sense for Roman to turn heel and join the group. Like I don't see any point, because if he turns heel and joins the group, then he's just acknowledging Solo as the tribal chief, and so he takes a back seat role in the bloodline.
Sure.
Which I don't think plays out. I think there is a scenario where Solo is the one that gets pinned.
Okay.
And that's when possibly The Rock comes out, and that's where they kick Solo out with this new Rock, Jacob, and the Tongans. And they kick Solo out because he lost to Roman and Cody, and the bloodline beat down all 3, and the new bloodline stands tall. If they're going to go into the bloodline versus bloodline at War Games, I think that's the direction that they could go. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of Cody taking the pin. Like I know it's the thing to do. This screams Solo taking the pin to me more than Cody taking the pin.
Do you think well, I hate to ask this question because I'm going to sound dumb when I ask it. I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think this is their way of getting Roman versus Solo? Is by having Roman pin Solo? Because we know Roman's not getting pinned in this match, and right. Jacob Fatu's not getting pinned in this match.
Right.
So
I don't even think they lock up. I don't even think those 2 get in the ring together.
That's very possible. Very, very possible. So does Roman pin Solo so that we don't have to do a singles match between the 2?
Possibly. I think if Rock comes out, then that's absolutely how that plays out.
Sure.
I think if if Rock doesn't come out, I think Roman beating Solo is how they do Roman versus Solo for the Ulafala.
Okay.
And so they could do that at whatever shows after Survivor Series.
I don't think they're doing one until
Rumble.
Till Rumble. Yeah.
So then I guess they could do Bad Blood. They could do Roman pin Solo. War Games, if Roman's team wins,
he's the tribal chief.
at the Rumble, we do Roman versus Solo for the Ulafala.
I could do that. Yeah.
I could see that kind of playing out. But
that makes sense. Wherever this thing goes, man, this partnership between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns is both very good and very, very bad. And I'm not even going to venture down the rabbit hole that everybody online is venturing down right now in the fact that this could be bad for Cody's popularity. And this isn't good for your top babyface because you bring in a guy that everybody is in love with. And we just want to see Roman Reigns. And we've cheered Roman for so long. And now we're taking cheers away from Cody. I don't even want to address that. That is what it is. That is a huge wait and see game. Who knows? Cody Rhodes is still going to be the one making live events and selling merch and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think there's an argument to be had there yet. Here's why I think it could be bad. It's bad for Cody Rhodes. Because imagine how many stories are coming out of this partnership. Because look, we've talked about Kevin Owens turning on him. Now, Kevin Owens has fuel to turn on him because Cody has aligned himself with the most hated guy in the locker room. Same thing for Randy Orton. The Bloodline put him out of action for 18 months. Cody, you're now aligning yourself with Roman Reigns. Oh, how about Jey Uso, the guy that you plucked from SmackDown to Raw to get him away from the Bloodline? You were tag team champions with him, and you put your trust in him, and you're the one going back? Oh, let's not forget about your human shield, Seth Rollins, who put himself on the line for you at WrestleMania. Now you're teaming with Roman Reigns? That is 4 main event stories, no pun intended, main event stories to tell with Cody Rhodes. I say it's bad for Cody Rhodes as in he's going to have a humongous target on his back. But, dude, it is great for WWE because we have got so many fantastic ways we can go with a Cody Rhodes story now.
I mean, absolutely. There are many directions. I think you can throw AJ Styles back in there because of his run with the Bloodline. You can throw LA Knight in there because of their run with the Bloodline, his run with the Bloodline for a little bit as well. I mean, there's a lot of people that the Bloodline have done wrong that this could come back to bite Cody at some point, which I think is fascinating. I also think the place might explode if at the end of the match, Roman and Cody shake hands in the middle of the ring.
Oh,
like
that one might be bigger than the Mega Powers shaking hands.
Like I could see that happening, and I can envision it now of Roman and Cody shaking hands in the middle of the ring, and as soon as they shake hands, Rock's music hits, and he comes out. And it's like, oh, okay, then now we're picking up steam. We're moving forward. So I mean, there's so many directions. And I feel like we say this all the time when it comes to the Bloodline and Roman matches. If this main events, because I don't think it's a guarantee that this main events, because I honestly think Punk Drew deserve the main event spot more than this.
Yes,
but
agreed.
If this main event, something is happening at the end. And the only thing big enough I could see happening at the end is those two guys shaking hands in the middle of the ring. Rock comes out, and we start to head towards possibly Rock Cody at Rumble and Roman Solo at Rumble and a couple other things. So I mean, there's so many directions that they could head into for heading into WrestleMania season, which is just a couple months away.
Well, you just perfectly segued into my next point. It's so great when you do that, when you make these points. It's exactly where I'm going to go with this because it is about to be WrestleMania season. Like to me, the seasons are WrestleMania to SummerSlam and then SummerSlam to WrestleMania. And that's just the way that it works. Anything after SummerSlam is fair game for WrestleMania, in my opinion. So we're already looking ahead to WrestleMania. And I mentioned all of these great opponents that it sets up these stories for with Cody Rhodes. The one I didn't mention is Roman Reigns himself. Like, there is a very, very, very good possibility that Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes' partnership is leading to a third straight WrestleMania main event between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns in Las Vegas for WrestleMania 41.
Technically a fourth if you count night 2 or night 1. Because they were in the ring together.
Oh, but yeah. If you count that, yes. I just meant yes, you know what I mean.
But consecutive main event. I mean, I see a scenario where Roman wins the Rumble.
Yeah.
And
very easily.
The script. You flip the script of what happened before.
Yep.
And this time Roman can have a rubber chicken thrown at him. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, I could see Rock winning the Rumble. I could see Roman winning the Rumble. I can see, we talked about this, I could see Punk winning the Rumble. I mean, I could see Seth Rollins winning the Rumble. There's so many people this year that could win the Rumble and go after either Gunther or Cody.
Yep.
Which makes it very fascinating and a lot of fun. But it makes the road towards the Rumble feel even bigger.
Yes, it does.
Because like I said, there's so many options for WrestleMania too. Like you mentioned, we could do Cody Roman 3. We could do Rock Cody. We could do Rock Roman. I think there's a scenario where they could do Roman Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania because it's such a big moment right now. Like there's so many things that they can do with this story, and we're still 6, 7, 8 months away from it.
And I'll throw another one at you. Especially the way that it looks right now, you could do Rock, Roman, Cody triple threat.
Yeah.
You know, the way that it looks now, because Roman stands alone, Cody's the baby face, Rock's the heel. Like, come on, let's go.
Yeah, there's a lot of directions that they can take this right now.
Man, a lot of people are upset about the way this is being handled for Cody Rhodes. Let them cook. Let's just let it play out, because in the end, we're all going to benefit from it. It's going to be awesome.
Well, my argument to the whole bringing Roman in is bad for Cody because it's taking away cheers from him. You could argue the same thing happened to Roman going into WrestleMania 40 with Cody, and Roman did just fine. Like these guys are at the point where the fan base is going to be behind them no matter what at this point. Barring, we start getting Super Cena levels of things and stupid booking decisions that could harm. But right now, Cody continues to get the biggest pops of the night.
Yep.
Roman gets big pops when he shows up.
Yep.
They rival each other. So I mean, it's not harming either one of them. It's literally like Rock Austin coming out there. Nobody was worried about the popularity of Austin when Rock started to get hot, and vice versa. This is one of the few times in WWE and since Rock Austin where you've had two people at the height of popularity.
Yep.
And it's not harming anybody. And I think there's more than just two. I think you could throw Rhea Ripley in there. I think you can throw Jey Uso in there. I think you can throw CM Punk in there. I think you can throw LA Knight in there. Like, there's so many people.
Let's not forget Seth Rollins, who's on the injured list.
Seth Rollins. Damian Priest is making his way up that list right now. Braun Breaker is making his way up this.
LA Knight.
The Wyatt Six. Like, there are so many people that are getting massive pops. And it's good for the business because you're not relying on one person to draw in ratings. It's the entire group is doing it, and it takes a lot of pressure off, and it makes things work a lot easier.
Wrestling is literally, rephrase, WWE is and this is not a shot at anybody. WWE is literally hitting on all cylinders right now.
Yeah.
And it's insane to watch.
Yeah. Now, when the cooldown happens and we crash, it's going to be really rough to get through for a little bit, but we're riding that high as long as we can right now.
We'll ride it as long as we can, man. And we're going to be right here on our YouTube channel to cover everything for you, so make sure you're subscribed. I know that I've said that a couple of times, but I can't stress that enough. You might think you're subscribed, but you're not. Just hit the subscribe button down below. We would appreciate it very, very much. And if you're listening on podcast, follow whatever platform that you are on. Leave us a 5-star review. We would appreciate that as well. All right, Andy, I can't believe that last week, as we were recording because we always record our podcast during Monday Night Raw. We try to get it up as soon as we can right after that. Last week, we missed the announcement of two incredible matches that were confirmed for Bad Blood. I can't believe we did it. We mentioned CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. That got confirmed last week for Hell in a Cell, Bad Blood. The third match in the series has been confirmed. A great promo tonight on Monday Night Raw from CM Punk. Drew McIntyre wasn't there. It was vice versa. Drew always being there without Punk, and Punk getting attacked a couple weeks ago, getting the bracelet shoved in his mouth and all that kind of stuff. Man, it's going to be hard to see if anything happens after this, if they try to continue this rivalry. But this is exactly why you remove the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and you just put the match on a specific show to settle feuds like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the perfect example of a match that needs Hell in a Cell. Like, there's no other stipulation for this third match that would make sense. I think back to like Seth and Edge when they were going through their feud. The only stipulation in that feud was inside Hell in a Cell. Yep. I think you can even throw Seth and Cody in there. Yep. That made sense for them too. So I think this is going to be a fantastic match. I thought we were at the point where there's nothing they could really say to get me even more hyped for it because we've kind of said it all. Yep. And then Punk cut the promo tonight, and I was like, "Oh wow! I'm more excited for this than ever before now." And I'm like at 10 for it, and I'm already now, and so I'm like at 12 now because of Punk. So I'm very excited to see what happens. Drew's supposed to be there next week to respond and cut a promo. I think we're just going to do promos back and forth. Yep. Go home. They're probably going to beat each other up, pull apart, brawl, and then we go inside the cell and. He said, "I'm a man of my word, and I don't make promises that I know I'm not going to keep. I'm going to make you bleed, and I'm going to make you have to kill me to beat me." So this is going to be. This is not. I don't feel like this is going to be your typical WWE Hell in a Cell match. I think this is going to be pretty brutal.
I said it last week. I don't know what they're going to do to each other. I don't know.
Thumbtacks could be in play. I mean, we're talking barbed wire. I could see anything happening.
You know what they're going to do is they're going to have some sort of, quote, glass spot.
Please do.
You know they will.
Please do.
You know they will.
Please do. And have Drew say, "Cry me a river" as he puts Punk through it. I would love it. We need a dog collar in this match too. Let's just call back to everything Punk did in AEW and let's roll with it. That'd be fantastic.
Except the injuries. Let's
keep the injuries and the backstage brawls out. Let's keep that out.
Listen, if Larry shows up in the match, listen.
If AJ shows up, if AJ Lee shows up, I'll lose my mind.
Do you know what could happen, man? Oh my gosh, I just thought of this. Wouldn't it be wild if AJ showed up and like throwed in the towel and covered up Punk to end the match? Like, I know people would crap all over that ending because it wouldn't be what they wanted. But, dude, what incredible storytelling that would be, because it ends the feud for the time being because you can always go back to it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Right now, sitting right here, right now, who do you think wins?
CM Punk.
You think Punk wins?
Yes, I think we get a Punk win because we get Punk and Gunther at Survivor Series. The 1 year when Punk returned to WWE, I think he gets his world title shot.
Do you think he wins it?
Nope.
I agree. I think so. I think this screams a Punk win, but depending on how it happens, I'm not against the Drew McIntyre win either.
Whoever wins is getting a shot at Gunther at Survivor Series. I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. For sure.
Or if not at Survivor Series, at the Rumble.
Yep. One or the other.
Like, it's one or the other.
That's a great way to keep Punk out of the Rumble too and save him for Seth at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Or you have him and Seth. Or you can have him and Seth touch for the first time in the Rumble. And something happens and, whatever.
Punk eliminates Seth. Seth eliminates Punk.
Whatever. Yeah, something like that. The other match that got confirmed is the rematch between Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. We saw this match at SummerSlam. We saw the mixed tag match at Bash in Berlin. And now we're getting this one-on-one. Andy, no stipulation has been added to this match. So I'm interested as to, I don't want to say why, but if we'll get a third, because I don't anticipate Rhea winning the title, but who knows?
I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I feel like crowd reaction has been great for both of them, for Rhea and for Damian. But I feel like this story has cooled off a lot.
Yeah.
After Dom's turn at SummerSlam, and then kind of everything that's followed after. I don't know. I don't know if there needs a stipulation. Honestly, I think Rhea could lose here because of Dom, and something happens War Games. We normally have 2 War Games matches, and you could do the Bloodline in one, Bloodline versus Team Roman or whatever. And then the other, you could do Judgment Day with Liv versus Rhea, Damian, Jey Uso. I mean, you could throw Jey Uso it'd be hilarious if you threw Jey Uso in a War Games match, and it had nothing to do with the Bloodline.
That would be really funny, wouldn't it?
That would be hilarious. But I think you could do something like that. We saw the New Day tonight being involved with Judgment Day and kind of telling that story with them. So I think you could add Kofi and Xavier to it and let that happen at War Games as well.
I like that. You also had the possibility, I know he's sort of past the Judgment Day story right now, but you've got Finn Balor, or not Finn Balor, what am I thinking? He's in the Judgment Day. Braun Strowman, who was recently feuding with the Judgment Day, that could be cool. Let me tell you a fun one that you could put with Priest and with Rhea. You bring in R-Truth.
Yes.
He's got to be on their team.
1,000% yes. R-Truth in War Games would be the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Because listen, no matter whatever weapon he pulls out, it's legal. It's fine. He can pull out a ladder and climb to the top all he wants.
Exactly. I would love it if he did that. I would love it if he pulled out like the Money in the Bank briefcase from underneath the ring. It was like, what is this here? Threw it.
Be hilarious. Speaking of Damian Priest, speaking of Finn Balor, I don't have a graphic because it just happened, but that match is also confirmed. Singles match for Bad Blood. Man, what a stacked card Bad Blood is. We've got 4 matches confirmed. Looking for a 5th. Probably going to be, if you had to guess, what do you think?
Probably Nia versus Bayley and Naomi.
Could be.
Because that was the stipulation I think they set up Friday, was if they're doing a tag match this week, and if
the losers leave SmackDown.
Whoever pinned Nia, got the winning pin, got to face Nia. But if they lost, they were gone from SmackDown forever or something like that. So I could see a scenario where Naomi and Bayley pin Nia at the same time or pin Tiffany at the same time, and they're both added.
I wonder if you do Nia, and if they win the match, I don't know what you do with Bayley and Naomi after that, but if Nia and Tiffany win the match and they get a tag title shot at Bad Blood against Jade and Bianca, or you do that the SmackDown before in Nashville, by the way, which we'll be at. You do that tag match that night, and then maybe your 5th Bad Blood match is a Jey Uso Braun Breaker rematch, or it's What are we thinking? It's Gunther and Sami Zayn. Yeah, it's Gunther and Sami Zayn. Yeah. That's the 5th match.
Yeah.
So
I didn't think about that. Unless they're doing 6, but I don't think they will.
No. So whatever that women's match ends up being, that'll happen on SmackDown the night before. Yeah. Because they always do some sort of main event level match that could have been on the card or, what have you. So
yeah.
That'll happen in Nashville. We'll be there, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Roman better be there.
Oh, I know. If he's not,
Dwayne, if you want to come on down too, that'd be great.
Hey, listen, Dwayne, it's not that far on your private jet. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just come on to Nashville. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know what else is going to be a lot of fun as we close up shop here this Friday. We teased it last week. We're going to do it this week. I, again, don't have for sure plans on it, but I know that this Friday, a new video is dropping on our YouTube channel. Our weekly wrap-up show is coming this Friday. We just mentioned Nia Jax, Bayley, and Naomi and that whole situation. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. Heck, Andy, we didn't even get to talk about Ricky from Seattle and Kevin Owens and Randy Orton and that whole scenario. We didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about the Wyatt 6 QR code that came up tonight. A lot of stuff that we have not talked about. We're going to try to cover as much as we can in a short amount of time on our weekly wrap-up show coming up this Friday. So don't miss it. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. That way you get it because it's an exclusive to the YouTube channel. Exclusive to our audio podcast is the MCWF, our fantasy booking show. Last week, we dropped the last pay-per-view, and this coming Friday is the Season 3 recap. It's in the books. We'll give you some behind-the-scenes stuff. We'll tell you what stories we felt like we told well. We'll tell you what stories we didn't feel like we told well, and some things that just dropped in our lap. But all in all, Andy, what a fun season it was in our fantasy booking show. We're going to take a little bit of a break, but man, if they haven't listened yet, go back and listen to all of season 3. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. We had a great time doing season 3. So definitely, if you haven't gone back and listen to it, check it out. And if you like it, then you should go back and listen to season 1 and 2 and get the full picture of what we did for 3 seasons. And then get ready for next Friday, or get ready for next week or this week when it drops. I'm all out of whack.
Yes.
When it drops, because you'll get a little sneak peek as what's to come in the future, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Because season 3 is not the end; it is only the beginning of the MCWF. Because season 4 is coming. It'll be a little ways down the road, but it's coming.
Yep.
All right, man. Man, what a fun episode! I feel like we hit a whole lot of topics. Anything else to add before we sign off?
Not really, just, another fantastic week of wrestling. A lot of stories are building up. A lot of things are taking off. And, who knows where we're heading next, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Who knows where we're heading next, and I'm just glad that Triple H is steering the ship and that we are along for the ride. That's Andy York. My name is Chris Belcher. This has been another edition of Squared Circle Radio. We will catch you guys down the road.